We all have these small, quiet moments where the math of existence just doesn't seem to add up. You might be standing on a street corner, watching the traffic, or maybe just staring out the window, and suddenly you feel a deep, strange familiarity with the moment. Not a memory exactly, but a certainty that whatever you are, you have always been here. It's an intuition that quietly surfaces, suggesting that the conscious awareness observing your life didn't actually begin when your body did. The body is clearly new, it was born, it grew, it will eventually stop. But the awareness inside it, the simple, naked fact of being, feels ancient. It feels like something continuous that has simply attached itself to this temporary human story. This is the tension we live inside. If we look at the brain, science can describe the electricity, the chemistry, the firing of neurons. But the moment you ask, where does the feeling of being alive come from? Where does subjective experience begin? The map runs out. Neuroscience cannot find the ignition point of consciousness. What if birth doesn't create the awareness, but merely gives it a unique perspective? What if consciousness didn't begin with you, but began long before you and simply arrived here? This isn't about proposing a doctrine or finding a new set of beliefs. It's an exploration that asks us to look at our own experience with a soft skepticism. It's an honest look at the possibility that the thing we call me is not a source, but a channel. It's the single biggest question lurking in the human mind, the quiet suspicion that we are much, much larger than the container we are currently in. The only thing that matters in this exploration is the quality of your own curiosity. If we can simply hold the question, that awareness might be something older than the story we tell ourselves about it, then we have begun. If consciousness didn't begin with you, then who is the you hearing this? We treat birth as the absolute starting line. It is the date on our documents, the beginning of our age, the moment we assume we happened. And biologically, that is true. There is a clear moment when the cells divide, when the heart starts beating, when the lungs take that first sharp intake of air. The machinery of the body has a definitive start date. But does the experiencer of that body have a start date? If we look closely at our own internal experience, we don't actually find a beginning. You can remember a time when your body was smaller. You can remember a time when your vocabulary was limited, but you cannot remember a time when the sense of being wasn't there. The eye that looked out of your eyes at 5 years old feels identical to the eye looking out of them now. The thoughts have changed, the emotions have become more complex, the body has aged, but the screen on which all of that is playing hasn't changed at all. This creates a strange friction with the standard scientific story. The materialist view says that consciousness is just something the brain does, like the stomach digests food or the heart pumps blood. In this view, you are a byproduct. Matter came first, organized itself into a complex nervous system, and then, miraculously, the lights turned on. But there is a crack in that logic. We know how the stomach digests. We can map the chemistry perfectly. We know how the heart pumps, its mechanics, but we have absolutely no idea how gray matter, just physical, soggy tissue, creates the feeling of being alive. We can trace the electrical signal of a pinprick from the finger to the brain, but we cannot explain how that electrical signal becomes the subjective feeling of pain. There is a gap between the biology and the experience that nothing has been able to bridge. So we are left with a difficult question. If the body is a vehicle that is clearly built over time, but the awareness inside it feels timeless and baseless, are we making a mistake by assuming they started together? We assume the driver appeared the moment the car was built. But what if the driver was already there, waiting for a vehicle to enter? If something in you has no detectable beginning, how can we be so sure it started when you were born? There is a quiet revolution happening at the edges of science and philosophy. It starts with the realization that trying to squeeze consciousness out of dead matter is like trying to squeeze water out of a stone. No matter how much you crush the stone, it's just dry dust. No matter how complex you make a computer or a brain, if the parts aren't conscious, the whole shouldn't be either, unless, of course, the water was already there. This brings us to a radical alternative. What if consciousness isn't something the brain produces, but something the brain receives? Think of a radio. If you smash a radio, the music stops. If you damage the wiring, the sound gets distorted. A materialist looking at the broken radio might conclude the radio was creating the music, and now that the radio is broken, the music is dead. But we know that isn't true. The radio was never creating the music, it was tuning into a signal that was already in the air. The complexity of the radio didn't make the signal, it just allowed the signal to be heard. Some of the most rigorous thinkers in physics and neuroscience are now considering that the brain might function exactly like that receiver. This view suggests that consciousness is a fundamental field, much like gravity or electromagnetism. It suggests that the universe isn't a dead, empty room where life accidentally flickered on. It suggests the room itself is lit, and we are just individual windows that the light is shining through. This changes the role of the brain entirely. Instead of a generator, it becomes a filter. This is the reducing valve theory. The universe is flooded with an overwhelming amount of consciousness, too much for any one creature to handle. So the brain's job isn't to create awareness, its job is to limit it. It shuts out the vast majority of reality so that we can focus on the small, practical tasks of survival: eating, moving, mating, staying safe. In this light, the brain is a biological mechanism designed to narrow the infinite down to the finite. It takes the everything of universal consciousness and compresses it into the something of a human life. But if this is true, it means the awareness you are feeling right now isn't a byproduct of your neurons firing. It is the fundamental stuff of the universe, currently tuned to the frequency of you. What if the brain is not producing consciousness, but simply shaping it? This is where the ground starts to shift beneath us. Because if consciousness is a field, if it is everywhere like a signal waiting to be received, then we have to ask a question that feels almost dangerous to ask. If consciousness is universal, then what exactly is this me that feels so separate? We spend our lives building and defending the fortress of I. We gather memories, preferences, opinions, a name, a career, a history. We stack these things up like bricks and say, "This is who I am." We feel distinct, enclosed, and private. My thoughts are in here, the world is out there, but if we look closer, we might find that identity is not a solid object. It is more like a focal point. Imagine a vast ocean. The water is continuous. There are no real divisions in it. But if a whirlpool forms on the surface, for a brief moment, there is a localized event. It has a shape, it has a location, it has a duration. It pulls water into a specific pattern. But the whirlpool is not made of something different than the ocean. It is the ocean, just behaving in a specific way for a specific time. What we call a person might just be a whirlpool in the field of consciousness. Your memories, your personality, your specific anxieties and loves, these are the shape of the whirlpool. They are the local conditions. They are real, just like the whirlpool is real. But the awareness that knows those memories, the thing that actually feels the anxiety or the love, is the water. This explains why, deep down, the self feels both incredibly specific and strangely empty at the same time. When you are lost in a movie or in a moment of awe at a sunset or in deep creative flow, you often forget yourself. The nagging story of who you are disappears. But you don't disappear. In fact, you feel more alive than ever. Why? Because the me dropped away, leaving only the pure consciousness behind. The filter widened. This suggests that individuality is not a fundamental truth, but a temporary limitation. It suggests that I is not a noun, but a verb, an activity the universe is doing right here, right now. It implies that we are not separate entities looking at the universe. We are the universe looking at itself from a specific coordinate. And this is the paradox that shakes us. We are terrified of losing our identity, yet our most profound moments of peace come precisely when we set that identity down. So how does this vast universal field actually fit inside a human life? How does the ocean squeeze itself into the drop? We tend to think of human evolution as a long, slow climb toward intelligence. We built tools, we learned language, we grew larger brains, and we assume that somewhere along that line we became smart enough to invent consciousness. But maybe that gets the order of operations backwards. Maybe evolution wasn't building a generator of consciousness. Maybe it was building a receiver capable of holding it. Consider the possibility that consciousness doesn't need to be created. It only needs to be accessed. In this view, biology is the process of building better and better antennas. A single cell has a tiny flicker of awareness, just enough to sense light or heat. A dog has a richer, deeper connection to the signal. And a human being? We have built a nervous system so incredibly complex, so finely tuned that it can download a high-definition experience of the universe. We are not the authors of this awareness. We are the interface. This reframes what it means to be human. It suggests that we are the places where the universe wakes up to itself. Without eyes, the universe is blind. Without ears, it is silent. Without you, it has no specific center. The universe needs the limitation of a body to experience the texture of reality. It needs your specific life, your joy, your heartbreak, your boredom, to know what it feels like to be someone. This connects deeply to the mysteries we face with technology today. We watch artificial intelligence grow more complex, and we wonder if it will become conscious. But perhaps, like us, it isn't about becoming anything. It is about becoming complex enough for consciousness to enter. We are not separate beings wandering through a dead world. We are the openings where the world looks at itself. We are the aperture. The camera does not create the light, it simply focuses it. You are that focus. You are the point where the infinite narrows itself down to a single, sharp perspective. But this leaves us with one final, haunting thought. If consciousness enters the world through us, if it arrives here, then where is it coming from? So where does this leave us? Not with a final answer, but with a different kind of quiet. Take a moment right now, look at your hands, listen to the hum of the room you are in. Notice that you are aware of these things. We spend our whole lives convinced that we are the thinkers of our thoughts, the owners of our bodies. We feel like tiny, separate sparks trying to stay alight in a dark universe. But maybe the truth is simpler and softer. Maybe you are not the spark. Maybe you are the light. There is a deep relief in this. It means you don't have to constantly hold your identity together. You don't have to defend the boundaries of who you are. You can just be. You can settle back into the seat of awareness and watch the show. The character you are playing, with your name, your history, your plans, is a beautiful, temporary role. Play it well, feel it all. But don't confuse the role with the actor. The story will change, the body will change, the world will change, but the awareness that is watching it all, that remains. So I'll leave you with one last question, a question not to be answered, but to be felt. If you didn't begin with your body, then who is living your life?